On a chilly, misty morning, as the rain pattered into the puddles in his trench, a young man sat alone and dreamed of the lost city of Gondolin. All around him were death and devastation. Thick black mud filled the bottom of the trench, so clinging and oozy that you could be stuck in it for hours. A rat scurried past, sleek and satisfied. Then another, as big as a cat. But the young man barely noticed, lost in his thoughts. A few yards away, the other men were brewing tea. They all wore the same brown-green uniforms, so dirty they might have been creatures from beneath the earth, dwarves from some underground realm. Their faces were grimy, their eyes hollow. After months at the front, they had seen things they could never have imagined. The young man looked up. The hammering of the guns had started up once more. Doom, 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 again and again and again. Over the top of the trench, he knew, was a scene of utter horror. Splintered trees and shattered bodies, dying grasses and rotting reeds, pools choked with ash, dead things, dead faces in the water. Yet for a brief, precious moment, it was as if he had stepped through a door and left the mud and misery far behind. He saw a magical island, glittering in the western sea. He saw kings and wizards, elves and goblins. He saw 3 jewels, burning with the light of the gods. A dragon, coiled around its glittering treasure. A great mountain kingdom, hewn from the rock. A band of adventurers, creeping through the woods. Then the guns crashed out again, and the ground itself gave a shudder. The dream was broken, and he was back in the trench. The young man's name was Ronald, and he was an orphan. His father had died when he was 3, his mother when he was 12. Born in 1892, he'd grown up in Birmingham, in the heart of England, a busy, bustling city of factories and cinemas, trams and telephones. But Ronald was no fan of machines and inventions. He had always been a daydreamer, wandering alone and inventing adventures. He adored tales of the ancient past, gods and kings, heroes and monsters. Most of all, he loved the myths and sagas of the Old North. Odin and Thor, trolls and dragons. At school, he'd formed a secret society with 3 close friends. The Tea Club and Barovian Society, or TCBS. Meeting in the school library, they smuggled in snacks for covert feasts and spent their afternoons making up jokes and stories. When their school years came to an end, they set out on the great adventure of grown-up life. Soon, they told themselves, they would write tales to enthrall the world. Then came the war. At first, Ronald hesitated to join the army. He had always seen himself as a writer, a man of words, not a soldier. But like his friends, he had been brought up to believe in honor, patriotism, courage, and duty. At school, they had learned about the knights of old, and on the sports field, they had been taught to put the team first. So as soon as he had married his childhood sweetheart, Ronald joined the army. He was now a 2nd lieutenant in the Lancashire Fusiliers, pledged to fight for his king and country. When his training was over, he boarded a ship to France, alongside hundreds of similarly nervous young men. They were bound for the bloodiest battlefield in human history, the great slaughterhouse of the Western Front. And so, in the summer of 1916, Ronald found himself knee-deep in mud and water, near the banks of the River Somme. Nothing he had ever read, no fairy tale or adventure story, no Greek myth or Viking saga, had prepared him for anything like this.